What do you make of this, then? Boris Johnson's new plans, apparently, to patrol the Channel.
Well, one bit of me says, great, it's about time that the Prime Minister showed a little bit of interest in what's going on. So I welcome the fact that effectively more resources are going to be placed in the Channel on either side of the border. That's terrific. What I'm doubtful about is that it's actually going to do very much to stop the actual flow of people, which everyone knows was over 28,000 last year. It's already double this month, half of the month gone, and we've already had more than double. Wow. We did the whole of last year in January. So potentially we're looking at another 50, 60, 70,000 people, if not more, this year. So something really has got to be done about it.
Well, sorry.
So, go on.
So I was going to say, actually, the Times are reporting this morning, says plans are being drawn up to send migrants to countries such as Ghana and Rwanda for processing and resettlement. That's been touted before, hasn't it? But it's come up against, you know, the people are saying they wouldn't actually be allowed to do it and it's inhumane. Is this the kind of measure you would want to see to perhaps discourage people from making that journey in the first place?
Nothing's going to discourage people so long as once they get here, they're allowed to stay. Now, you can say this is going to be another class of migration, another class of people coming into the country. The cross-channel people are going to be given a little category all of their own, and they won't be granted asylum, ever. Which is fine. What happens beyond that? They're not given asylum, but are they going to be allowed to stay here under some other category? And when people say offshore processing, send them to a third country, yeah, great. We've been calling for that. I've been calling for that for years almost. But what then? Which country is actually going to take them? If it's going to be one of our British colonies, for want of a better word, I'm afraid that they will have something to say about it. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
Well, absolutely. I mean, supposedly there was one point where we were going to send people to Albania. That was vetoed by the Albanian government. Supposedly there was one point where we were thinking about doing it to Gibraltar, which came as a massive shock to the people of Gibraltar. To a lesser extent as well, the Ascension Islands, I believe. I think that just shocked the penguins that are over there. But, yeah, you know, I mean, this is something that we almost presumably haven't actually spoken much to Rwanda about, and it's all very well and good as saying that we're going to do this, but we'd have to incentivise them, wouldn't we?
Well, the hint is that we're prepared to pay millions in order to do it. However, when you start sending people to Rwanda or Ghana or anywhere else and paying for it, something that the EU is actually doing, I have no problem with that if the country is prepared to accept such migrants, and indeed we end up being the ones who are actually processing them. There's no question of handing them over to Rwanda or Ghana and saying to the Rwandans, OK, you interview them, you clear them, you decide what you're going to do with them. That isn't going to happen. And it's what happens at the end of the process. Will we be able to send them back to their country? Or will we, in fact, say, OK, you can come back to the UK? Because we're most certainly not going to hang on to them in camps in any country in Africa. That's not going to happen.
And what do you make of some of your, I suppose, opponents, for want of a better word, would say, hang on a minute, these are some of the most vulnerable people. We know some of them, a chunk of them are indeed refugees because they do get granted that asylum status eventually. Sending them off to another country, it all just feels a bit inhumane. And given that the fact we'd have to pay this cost anyway to resettle them or have them processed somewhere else, it just balances out eventually. I mean, is it worth the fuss?
It's most certainly worth the fuss, because if we didn't do something about it, I'm afraid they would just continue to come. Is this a sensible way of having people migrating to this country? The second point is they're not all refugees. The vast majority are able-bodied, strong, young men. 80% of them are young men, frankly.
But I think something like 50% or 60 or something do get granted, who have their asylum applications accepted. So I suppose they...
we are a soft touch. A lot of them have already been refused, frankly, in France, in Germany, in Austria, in other countries.
Yeah.
And they end up coming to the UK by default almost because nowhere else will have them. So I think that it's a mistake to suggest that all of them are refugees who merit asylum.
I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah, and Sue's been in touch, actually. Boris is announcing now policies that he was voted in to do. And Sue's got a very good point there, because Boris Johnson really has not done anything like he said that he was going to do in numerous different aspects. So him just saying it now could be deemed a cynical attempt to garner public support at a time when his popularity is going through the floor.
Well, I don't know about the word cynical, not for me to say.
No.
But certainly there's been a lot of pressure from the constituencies where people, frankly, thought that this was all going to be brought under control and illegal immigration was going to stop. And suddenly it's dawned on the government that what we've been saying for a long time, that there's going to be comeback in the ballot box unless they do something about it.
Can I ask what the biggest problem for you about our current asylum system is, or our current immigration system, but just relates to the Channel, right? Is it the security threat? Is it the money it's costing? Is it the numbers? Is it something else?
Yes, all those things. But the fact is that what is happening is not dissuading people from making the attempt. And that's what we've got to do, is make it clear that coming across the Channel in a dinghy illegally is not going to lead to your staying in this country indefinitely.
Yeah.
That's the message we've got to get over.
And finally, you know, we obviously this announcement or speculation perhaps about the Royal Navy being brought in, that doesn't bode well for Boris Johnson's trust, perhaps, in Priti Patel, or his confidence in Priti Patel at resolving this issue. Do you think, actually, Priti Patel's stuck between a rock and a hard place? There's not much any Home Secretary could do about this problem. What do you think of all that? Is there anybody in the government who you would trust to actually deal with this issue properly?
No, frankly, at the moment, whoever's Home Secretary, excuse me, is going to face exactly the same problems. And to be fair to Priti Patel, she has been calling for military assistance for some time now. So it's not her. The Prime Minister is an avowed mass immigrationite. He likes immigration. He, as Mayor of London, he wanted lots of immigration. So I think that having some support from that quarter is certainly going to be helpful with regard to getting together collectively the whole government to be reacting to this problem.